You're either with us or against us. Absolutist black and white thinking is everywhere, epitomized by this cliché: you're either with us or against us. It comes out of the mouths of our fictional villains, from Darth Vader to Lex Luthor, and with near equal frequency from the podiums of our actual historical villains, from Lenin to Mussolini to Hillary Clinton to George W. Bush. Oh, and Jesus said it too. In Matthew's Gospel, Jesus says, "Whoever isn't with me is against me, and whoever doesn't gather with me scatters." The purpose of such a hyperbolic, bivalent way of phrasing things is to indicate that everyone is involved, that you can't sit this one out, that there's no such thing as neutrality. Even though it seems like this is a classic oversimplification and that this sort of thinking is the death of nuance, there are actually some legitimate reasons to insist on the taking of sides. Neutrality is usually an illusion created by privilege. In a conflict between unequal powers, to claim neutrality is actually to support the status quo. As Desmond Tutu once said,
"If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. If an elephant has its foot on the tail of a mouse and you claim to be neutral, the mouse will not appreciate your neutrality."
Apparently my Desmond Tutu is very dramatic. Conflicts have stakes. When the stakes are high, such as with climate change, trying to hedge your bets and take some sort of middle position, well, I'm just not decided about climate change, I'm no scientist,
is actually taking a position in favor of the status quo, which in this case is actually contributing to a disaster.
So when Matthew has Jesus say, "Whoever isn't with me is against me," he's right in one way. Like it or not, you're involved. There is no part for a disinterested observer in this screenplay of humanity. We are one species sharing one planet, and your actions will either contribute to our flourishing or they won't. But in some other ways, Matthew's Jesus is wrong. He's wrong because most conflicts don't break down neatly into two distinct sides. Most conflicts are many-sided, and people are fickle and confused, and their allegiances are complicated. People will behave one way in one moment and entirely differently in the next moment. In other words, there aren't many white hats and black hats, many heroes and villains in real life. We're all a mix of both. So we're involved, yes, but our involvement is complex. Right now in my life, I'm doing many things to combat climate change, from lobbying our government to recycling to limiting my own habits of consumption to protesting the actions of corporations. But I'm also doing plenty in my life to contribute to climate change. But the main reason that I think that Matthew's Jesus is wrong is because the framing of the statement negatively, the way he does, sets up a destructive bias. The phrase, "whoever isn't with me is against me," sets up a situation in which there's a tight, narrow little circle around me and my friends, and over there's another circle for all of those people who have set to explicitly oppose me. And in the middle here, this is the vast majority of humanity, which hasn't explicitly allied itself with my enemies or with myself, but by the logic of "whoever isn't with me is against me," all of these people here in the middle all have to get classed as enemies. This way of thinking makes you see a world full of enemies. It's no wonder that in literature and movies, any character which talks this way is normally portrayed as either power-mad or paranoid or both. They see a world around them that's full of potential traitors and terrorists everywhere they look. This is McCarthyism, Red Scare America, or the belief that there could be a terrorist sleeper cell anywhere in your quiet little suburban neighborhood. When Christians attach this kind of thinking to salvation, they dismiss the majority of humanity throughout history to an imaginary hell with cruel indifference, or worse, they actively persecute people who don't believe like them. After all, anyone who hasn't explicitly joined their particular tribe of Christians is automatically against Jesus in their mind. But we don't have to adopt this us against the world mindset, even as we acknowledge that in the big conflicts of our day, there are no bystanders. We could choose instead to embrace the contrapositive of this kind of thinking, that whoever isn't against us is for us, which is how Jesus says it in the Gospel according to Mark and Luke. Thinking this way establishes the exact opposite bias. Everyone who isn't in the circle of explicit friends or the circle of explicit enemies, all of those people that is the majority of humanity in between, all of them get to become your implicit friends. This is what Pope Francis keeps talking about when he says that atheists and Christians can meet in a place which is beyond religion, where they do good works together. This is what Karl Rahner meant by the idea of anonymous Christians, meaning that beyond the boundaries of the church there are millions, perhaps billions of people who live in the grace of God without ever being explicitly Christian. In other words, you don't have to sign on the dotted line. You don't have to agree with me in every or even very many particulars. You can practice different rituals, believe in different gods, or even be entirely non-religious, and I'm still going to count you as my friend and still behave as a friend towards you. Because this is the basis of our friendship, that you, like me, are a complex human being with varied emotions and diverse motivations worthy of my empathy and capable of pursuing peace and justice. So let's do that. Let's build on that implicit friendship with acts of kindness and commitments to live justly. Let's explore the inner worlds of our emotions and imaginations, the systems of metaphors and symbols we use to make meaning out of our lives. Doing so in a spirit of curiosity and experimentation, because even when we disagree with each other, as we learn to understand one another, we move closer to that harmony which turns implicit friendship into true community. Hey, thanks for watching Lectionaric. You might notice that there's like some subscribe buttons you should hit, and there's like other videos you can watch, and there's a like button down here you should click. And also in the comments down below, I'm really curious to hear from you guys about whether religion in your life and in your personal experience functions more often to divide people and sort of cut people off from each other, or if it has functioned, hopefully, sometimes in your life to bring people of differing experiences together in ways that bridges things which formerly divided them. I'd like to hear your stories. Desmond Tuto. Desmond Tuto. Desmond Tutu.